Hey, what's up guys? It's Marv and welcome back to another Asphalt 9 video. Today I finally starred up my GENTY AKYLONE all the way to 6 stars using only blueprints I bought with credits from the Legend store. So this is one of the best cars in terms of rank that you can buy just from credits using the Legend store. But before I get into the performance of this car in multiplayer, I do want to let you guys know that I just went to the Long Beach Grand Prix. You can see some footage of the drift event on screen now. It was so awesome. I absolutely had a blast. I'm gonna post some photos once I go through them on my Instagram, which you can check out in the description down below, along with all of my other social media accounts, including the Discord server where you guys can join and hang out with me and have a good time. Alright, so back to the GENTY AKYLONE. Now, this used to be the highest rated A-class car back with the first Drive Syndicate update with the Koenigsegg Jesko, and I believe this car was also a part of that event. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to be the A-Class King for quite a while during that update. Now, you might be wondering why it's taken me a while to make a video about this car, and I'll discuss that a bit in a moment. But you did have to unlock this car if you wanted to progress throughout the first Drive Syndicate, and it was a fairly easy Drive Syndicate compared to the later ones, but I only unlocked it for the minimum amount of stars required to continue on to get the Jesko, so I didn't focus on starring it up back then. Now, I do believe you have to have a fairly high garage level in order to start seeing blueprints in the Legend store for this car, but hopefully that will be fixed with the Asphalt Legends Unite garage level change. But also I feel like a lot of players at this point have gained enough garage points in order to start seeing blueprints for the GENTY AKYLONE in the shop. So for being a free car essentially, how good was it? And I would say, and you can tell based off the title of this video, it is good enough. It is certainly no king. Obviously, the rank has been far outmatched by a lot of other cars since this car's introduction many years ago, but it also isn't a mid or low tier car that just can't compete at the highest level. What I will say is that this car seems pretty versatile in terms of the stats, but you quickly realize that the only major downfall that this car has is the handling, and it's not horrible by any means, but you're going to get whipped around by Vandas in the corners, especially because it just feels so sluggish in tighter corners. And combine that with the somewhat mediocre top speed for a high-end A-class, this means that you really have to know what you're doing to take advantage of the other stats. In terms of acceleration and nitro, speaking of those other stats, they are pretty good. Again, they're not world beaters, but nitro management at 67 is pretty darn easy to do. It's one of those cars where you don't really have to think too much about getting shockwave or saving up nitro a lot because you seem to always have something left in your tank. Nothing like the Vanda, of course, but it's certainly doable. And in terms of the acceleration, it's not going toe-to-toe with the Rimac or the SCG in A-Class, but it's pretty good. If you take a look especially at a lot of the other generic A-Class cars, like the older Huayra and some of the other mid-tier A-Class cars, those are stuck in the high 70s or even mid 70s sometimes. So having 82 acceleration is pretty good. Combine that with the above average top speed of 238 without import parts, by the way, I will add, so you can go a little bit higher by adding import parts, and you get a pretty potent combo for something that is quite versatile. It's more of a jack of all trades, master of none. So you're not blowing past anyone on Himalayas due to a top speed, but you're also not drifting around corners at insane speeds on tracks like Osaka, like if you were to be driving a Vanda. What this means though is that you can be confident that no matter what track you get, you have a pretty good chance if you know your routes and you do really well with your nitro management and corner placing. So I think this is a pretty good car if you're just getting into Platinum League and you want to gain some of that rating before you use up your other good cars. So I wouldn't recommend this if you're at that 1700 rank and you're trying to break into Legend League. Unfortunately, you're just going to run into a bunch of kings that you won't have any chance on if they have their specific track. Like For example, if I face a Vanda on Caribbean, I don't think I'm going to win against a very skilled driver. You'll see in this video, I do beat a lot of cars that are ranked higher above me, but I believe that's mainly due to the skill difference there. And if I really kept pushing it, if I had more time to test out this car, I feel like you would start to see the cracks in the stats for this car at the top end of Platinum League. I do want to focus on that handling stat a bit more though, because it's listed as 64.5. But obviously, if you played with this car, you know that it doesn't feel like that, because if I switch back to the Huayra on my screen real quick to check the stat, yeah, that's at 62.35, and you all know how good the Huayra's handling feels. So I got no idea what's up with the stats. It's really weird because especially in some of the later updates, we've seen cars that have very high ranks and some higher acceleration and or handling stats that don't seem to match what the feeling is like. And that's what I like to focus on throughout a lot of these videos. You'll probably be noticing that throughout my car reviews, I like to mention the fact that I like to focus on the feeling of the car and the experience in game rather than just relying on the stats to determine whether or not a car is good. Because ultimately, if your car doesn't feel right, you're going to have a hard time learning its strengths and weaknesses, especially if the stats don't exactly match your experience in game, and that's what I feel like is happening with the handling. Again, as I mentioned with all the other stats, it's not terrible, but it's also not super amazing. You're not going to beat the handling king with this handling stat, but you're also not going to drift like the base LaFerrari in terms of, you know, that lower A class car. It definitely feels faster than that in the corners. But again, it's just weird considering that it has a higher stat compared to the Huayra, but it feels more sluggish. So I don't know if it's realistic for me to expect something from Gameloft at this point in regards to rebalancing the numbers in this game, because there have been so many cars added to the game lately where everyone agrees that it's just plain overranked. And I'm not saying that this car is overranked. It definitely is in terms of the handling because of the feeling, but I'm just saying that it's a bit of a weird trend going on in Asphalt 9 lately. And I don't know, I hope Gameloft can do a rebalancing update in the future. I know it would be weird because rebalancing in a competitive video game, or at least one where people are paying money to get stats, is very interesting. But honestly, I think it's a bit warranted at this point because some cars are getting a bit out of hand with their ranks, especially at those higher ends of those different classes like A and S. Anyway, long story short, going back to the GENTY, or the GENTY, I don't know, I don't speak French. But anyway, in terms of would I recommend this car, at least for buying it with credits, I absolutely would. Like I mentioned earlier, if you just want to use this as a great workhorse in A class to climb up those leaderboards, at least as you get into Platinum League, I think it's a great tool for that. But once you get into the upper tier of Platinum, you're going to want to start using your specialized cars, especially in something like Ghost Slipstream. You're going to want to use your Jaguar or something that can go over 240, maybe even the Citroen. So it's not going to be the best at a specialized track combination, but I think it's good in general if you're starting into Platinum League, just getting out of Gold League, and you want to start climbing the leaderboard. So anyway, guys, I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the GENTY AKYLONE in the comment section down below. It's been a while since we've talked about this car, or at least the greater Asphalt 9 community has really mentioned it, but I feel like because it's in the Legends store, it's way more accessible to more players, so I feel like it was a good time to take a look at it. Alright guys, that'll be it from me. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you all later.